Am I good or am I evil? Live for praise from the people. Addiction to the fame is the work of the devil. I want to make a splash, not just live for the cash. The struggle in my mind is the battle with my ego. Kerwin Ray says it takes an average startup about 7 years to clear 1 million. And tonight I'm going to share with you the one shift that took me from 0 to 7 figures in 14 months, and that's hardly spending any money on advertising. And that little shift has to do with this battle with the ego. Now, for those of you who don't know, the ego represents a part of your psyche that is kind of the lower dark part. It is a compensatory part of your nervous system from your psyche that tries to compensate for unworthiness. And it's basically your neuropsychology's response to fear. And if you don't get this part right, no matter what marketing dollars that you spend, no matter what you do, you're never going to it's never going to take traction. Because at the end of the day, if you market without actually caring and having that feeling of worthiness, that's going to transmit the energy of unworthiness, and it's not going to work. Preach. So where it all began with myself, I'm born in Iran, moved to Canada when I was 4 years old, which means I love my kebabs, but I put maple syrup on it. And basically, so I just constantly being compared with, I have a twin, so I constantly have this comparison. So this battle with my ego started very young. And when I told my parents that I wanted to become I got my first chiropractic adjustment at the age of 13, and I told my mom and dad, I want to be a chiropractor. And my mom said, chiropractor? Why don't you become a real doctor? And so even though that was completely out of love, it was absolutely out of love. Fast forward, on my graduation, I get this email from my mom, Nima, we love and we support you. And when you're finished and you want to go into medical school, you have our full support. And so that drove me to succeed, and I wanted to basically show them. I wanted to really be successful. Basically, I did it for the reasons of proving and showing, which was ego-based. How many of you guys can know what I'm talking about? Okay, good, it's not just me. What happened was that drove me to great success. I had one of the largest multidisciplinary chiropractic practices in all of the Lower Mainland, had massage therapists as well. It was a lot of fun. But what the problem is that I put my marriage on the back burner. And what ended up happening was I went through a divorce. And going through that was one of the most painful experiences of my life. Who here has gone through that? All right. You remember the transitional anxiety in that period of time of should I stay or should I go? That became something I became fascinated with understanding. And I did a lot of personal development work. And through that process of transitional anxiety, I realized that I didn't really want to be snapping necks and cashing checks anymore. I wanted to be teaching people. You get it? I wanted to be teaching people how to get to the underlying root cause of their problems. And so what I did was I started teaching, I started talking to my patients, realizing that every single person coming in was coming with a stress-related disorder. So I came up with this methodology of a self-inquiry tool, an emotional clearing tool called the overview method, and I started teaching it. And I became addicted to teaching it because my patients would have massive transformations. And slowly I found myself having more joy in the teaching than I did in the actual snapping necks and cashing checks. So fast forward several years, and I went on a world tour, and I started getting traction and success. I had TV appearances. I even traveled to Australia, standing ovations. I would rap. I would dance. This was in Spain. And the big positive was that I got successful. The big negative was I got too successful. I let it get to my head. I was losing the battle with my ego. I made my success about me. And what ended up happening was I lost sight of what happened at the office, and lo and behold, little by little, my practice started unraveling. And my my associates were gone, and little by little, I had nothing left. And I came back, and it was, oh, there's a problem with the Wi-Fi there. And I'm sitting there, and I have no idea or understanding who I am, what I'm here to do. I was going through a different level of transitional anxiety. Is that okay now? I was going through a different level of transitional anxiety, that career limbo, that identity crisis. I'm 41 years old. I feel like a complete failure in my marriage. I feel like a complete failure in my practice because I had built this incredibly successful business and now it's nothing. And then there was this webinar that absolutely, sorry, there's a little bit of technical difficulty. Okay. One day, I click on a Facebook ad, led me to a webinar, led me to a discovery call that absolutely changed my life. Cindy basically unpacked all of the talents and gifts that I had, even though I was in a dark place, created a huge possibility for my life and held me accountable to that possibility. And I hired a mentor who basically had gone through all the pain that I've gone through. And slowly, over a period of about 14 months, I went from 0 to 7 figures, helping people who were struggling with relationship limbo and the transitional anxiety of career or relationship limbo get powerfully aligned with their lives, and I was living my dream. Now, the way that I did that was to win the battle with my ego, and there's 3 key steps that you need to go through in order to do that, that without doing this, whatever marketing that you're doing is going to turn into crap because you haven't gotten this in alignment. Are you interested? Yes. All right. Screw you. Number 1, stop running away from your pain. Instead of running away, run towards it. You saw how Trevor was talking about his pain. Run towards the pain. Embrace the pain. In fact, instead of embracing it, find gratitude for it. I did a talk for a group of dental reception students, and one gal put her hand up and said, "Why do we have to find meaning in our pain? Why is that important?" Because some things just you can't really explain, like a death of a child. How can you explain that? And then the teacher puts up her hand and tearfully saying, "Yeah, I went through that, and it's incredibly painful." And I asked her, I said, "Are you willing to get real and vulnerable in front of the class?" She said, "Yeah." I had her sit down in front of everyone, and I went through an entire process with her, and she saw that not only had it not been for the death of her child 30 years ago as a 6-month-old, she wouldn't have become a stand for other mothers. She wouldn't have become a stand for other families. She wouldn't have become inspired to become a teacher. And all of a sudden, tears started flowing down when she realized that for the past 20 years, she was teaching and raising a bunch of women. And it was so important and connected to her because of that pain. In that moment, she turned from embracing it and being okay and accepting it to absolute love and gratitude. What she did, what Brenda did, was turn her pain into purpose, which is number 2 of what you need to do. You need to turn your pain into purpose. You got to create your own personal mission statement and stand for your clients and connect with that pain. Because if you don't get this part right, imposter syndrome takes over. You start thinking, ooh, what am I? Who am I to be making such a difference? Who am I to be stepping up and serving? Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Me, 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 me. When the person across from you is suffering from pain and they need you more than anyone. They need you to be connected with that pain. Turn that pain into purpose. And when you get it right, magic starts to happen. This is a client of mine, Kate and Ant, were leaving their chiropractic practice to start their transitional anxiety of going into their online business. And they also, coincidentally, were really stuck in their marriage with a really big crisis going on. And when they reached out to me, and these guys are a really big deal couple in Australia, and in that moment I was like, oh, am I worthy of helping these people? And when I was in Australia speaking, he went and he was the one that came up to me after my talk and said, we really resonated with your talk. And I had this imposter syndrome going on, and then I connected to my vision and purpose. And lo and behold, I served this couple. And now their business has tripled, and their relationship is more connected than ever, because I got over my own ego story of who am I to be making such a difference, and serve the crap out of them. You can do the same thing. And the third one, the most important, is to find your Obi-Wan. Find your Yoda, a mentor who's been through the same pain that you've been through, who's climbed that mountain, who's done their work, and who's cried those tears. Because when you get this part right, you will find the right person that will hold space for you, who will hold your hair up while you puke your emotional bucket out and know exactly what you've gone through. And I want to give a shout out to Trevor, who reached out to me back in February saying, I need to fix my wife and I have no idea what I want to do with my career and stuck. And he took on the work, and lo and behold, he transformed into this powerful leader that you see. And we got to work together, and we become more than just client relationship. We're actually become friends, and I couldn't be more proud of the transformation that he's made, even with a little baby that is premature. So I want to leave you with this quote by Patanjali. He basically says, when you're inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, all your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends limitations, your consciousness expands in every direction, and you find yourself in a new, great, and wonderful world, like here at the CBC studios. And if this immigrant kid can turn his pain through failure into purpose, then what the hell can you do? Thank you.
Thank you, Nima.